We're discussing the health department document on caring in the community and other issues.
But there are a number of problems, and what I'd like to do is take you through a number of the graphs and diagrams that KPMG produced, because I think they tell the story about the need for change. The first is this one. What you can see on my right is our current population profile, the population profile for 2010. And it's still pretty much the traditional profile, which is you have, a bit like a Christmas tree, more branches at the bottom and fewer branches at the top, and the bottom holds the top up. What we're moving to over this 30-year time frame is something which doesn't have the same amount of support from the bottom. And that's reflecting the fact that our population is ageing. And we have more people who are going to be moving into those age groups that are 65, 75, 85 plus. And that's a great thing, that people are able to live longer and to have healthier lives into old age, but of course it does have its impact in terms of the need for health and social care.
And you admit to being 88 years of age now.
That's right.
And you still enjoy, obviously, motoring and life that goes with it, the activities. And you're still very much involved. You were still racing until how long ago?
About 6 years ago, I was still doing hill climbs with the Lagonda.
And I think the first thing I would want to say is we're not alone in this. Every country at the moment is struggling to cope with the rising demand for health and social services, at the same time as every country in the world is working very hard to recover from the global recession. So as money is very tight, the demand is also increasing for care for our populations. So in summary, we do face a huge increase in demand for health and social care, and that's driven largely by the change in our demographics. The scale of that demand could overwhelm us pretty soon unless we do something about it now. We're not alone. Every country in the world is facing exactly these challenges, but we will be alone if we don't act on this. Most other jurisdictions are investing in alternatives to hospital care and institutional care. There is a growing awareness really across all of the developed world that most people like to be cared for in their community. They like to stay in their own homes for as long as it's possible for them to do that safely. And there's a lot of technology available now to help people to stay in their own homes for longer.
So a few things have to be altered.
Right.
They're having electronic doors put in.
Right.
They're having electronic hoist, tracking hoist put on. Swing away gate as well. Because you have to rebuild. If the rooms are small, you have to put extension on the electricity, hoists and everything.
The Long-Term Care Benefit Fund will provide equipment either as a permanent arrangement or on hire or whatever.
I've got to say that most of the houses that we've sold over the last few years that already have standard lifts and various other things fitted in get taken out straight away, because it's usually the next generation coming through. So whilst the person who had it before has had to move on because they genuinely can't look after themselves anymore, the next one will come in, but it's always the ability to be able to put a stander back on means that the staircase has to be wide enough. I mean,
and I'm formally and officially registered blind. As soon as I came out of hospital, I was in there for about 6 months. I was appointed a social worker, and that social worker in Chesterfield, where I live, who's employed by Derbyshire County Council, had to basically get a package together for me of benefits, care assistance, improve my accommodation, etc.
But clearly any services provided to people in their own homes, other than by family, need to be regulated. And the people working for these people need to be police checked, and they need to make sure they have the skills and the supervision required by their employers. So until that regulation of care law is in place, we may not be able to introduce care packages for people in their own homes. The two go together.
I also have a 24/7 contact with this care line service for emergencies if anything was to happen to me. I'm not just blind, I have other problems as well.
Because I've tried living on my own and it didn't get on very well.
It doesn't work.
I had problems and didn't happen.
It could be the medical interventions that are needed. They may need toileting on a regular basis and they are unable to do it for themselves, and they can't bear to have their partner be involved in that. I mean, there is that, and some of us have had to go through dealing with that sort of thing, where your partner, your husband or your wife of many years becomes disabled, becomes ill. You think, oh, it's right, I'll look after them. You suddenly realise that dignity, and I think dignity is the big word, disappears. And when you lose that dignity at home, you need to be cared for elsewhere. And that's where homes of this type, nursing homes and care homes, will kick in and are available and need to be so.
It was estimated that 30 million is spent between social security and health and social services on care, long-term care.
We need to ensure that people get the right services in the right place at the right time from the right people. And if we can get that model right, then we can start to cope with some of these challenges. But what we've also got to recognise is that at the moment we have 3.9 people working for every person who's dependent, which is an older person or a child. By the time we've got through to 2014, that will have dropped to 1.8 people working for every dependent. Now clearly we have to find a different funding model for health and social care going forward, if that is the case.
And the basis of this is that disabled people should have their own right to employ who they wish. So to effect that, what they do now, originally when I went blind, I had council workers coming in and looking after me, and these were paid workers from the local council with proper pension rights and proper wage rights, members of trade union, and fairly protected. But what the councils are doing are laying those people off, making them redundant, and they're giving a concept called direct payments to disabled people, so that I receive, from Derbyshire County Council, I receive an amount per week, which is called direct payments, and it's self-directed. So I can either employ somebody, I can employ one or two people myself as an employee, or otherwise I can use an agency.
But the provision of services in your own home don't necessarily require somebody of nursing care knowledge or qualification. For example, family nursing have people who assist, with people getting dressed in the morning or providing them with meals or doing a bit of cleaning. Now that's the sort of work that actually would expand. And we have a considerable number of people unemployed, so there's an area there where with training we could get people to take up that as an employment position.
Looking after somebody that's severely disabled and needs assistance continually in their own home is a very expensive way of going about it. It's very resource hungry because the people that are carers or the people that are nursing the individuals have to go from one place to another place. That takes time. That takes time, resources. It's much more efficient where you have got over the threshold that you can't live independently anymore to actually have the facilities and the resources located in one place, like a nursing home, like a care home.
Not only are we doing the residential care, but we're also doing a significant amount of outreach by people coming into the home and using the facilities of the home for their benefit. Somebody coming in for a daycare, bath and shower with one carer is £15, and with two carers, and some people need two carers to help them with a bath and shower, is £30. People on income support would have to go and ask for special payments for it. I think if it could be proved that we are offering a service they couldn't have at home, which is the shower or the bath, it would be very hard for the Social Security Department to refuse a special payment for that. And it'd be a great deal cheaper than adapting their bath and their house and bringing carers in to give them a bath at home. And that's when you're asking the cost effectiveness. They come up here by car, or we pick them up, we give them a shower or a bath for 15 quid or 30 quid once a week, rather than spending a lot of capital to adapt a bathroom, put in hoists and ramps and stair lifts perhaps, and then having to bring a carer in for 2 hours, because it'll be hours travelling there and back, plus the hour to do the bath and the shower. I think the arithmetic speaks for itself. It's more sense to bring somebody here, and they get a cup of tea thrown in, of course, and a biscuit, and they meet other people and talk to other people. Whereas if they're on their own at home, they may not see anybody else from one carer to the next.
Well, I think the paper talks in terms of 1 in 4 people may at some stage in their lives need residential or nursing care. For some people, they would prefer to be cared for in an environment where there are other people, they can have some communication with other people rather than being alone all day waiting for the nurse or something or care assistant to arrive perhaps for a couple of hours. So there is a social side to this rather than just being left in your own home to fend for yourself and with the odd visitor.
And not everybody's house is adaptable. Not everybody wants to stay at home either. And I know it's an experiment that's been taking place in the UK, and Leonard Cheshire in the UK have been involved in it, and they're not over impressed with the results.
And this is doing, what do they do? What's
Care in the community, basically what we've been talking about, taking people, carers into people's houses,
right,
and giving them the care in the home, giving them the baths, giving them the washes, giving them the odd meal or two. And it isn't a raving success. It's not a disaster, but it's not a raving success.
And I would imagine also that there's probably hundreds of people who are isolated in their homes with no social support whatsoever, being looked after full-time by their relatives, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever, and those people are not being paid either. It's because in England, carers as well get lots of support and benefits.
And this is one of the biggest changes in the older population that you will see anywhere in the world. We are expecting over that 30-year time frame a 95% increase in the number of older people on the island. And these are people who are already here. We're not going to bring them in from anywhere. This is our population that's already here on the island, and it is ageing.
Obviously, if we're going to double the number of people over 65 in the next 30 years, then we're going to have to think of outside of that sort of provision, which is what that Green Paper is all about.
And I think that's where the real problems come. Because the medical profession, I think, have an impossible task. They have the means to keep the body alive. They don't have the means to give the quality of life. But they've sworn their Hippocratic oath to preserve life at all costs. And the problem is that by preserving it, you're actually creating an enormous problem.
Once you get to the threshold where the person can't care for themselves, then really independent living is not the solution. You do need some backup, residential care, nursing homes, for those people that can't actually look after themselves anymore. There will always be a need for caring for those older people that can't live independently anymore.
But there again, too many people want something for nothing, and they think the state has to look after them. And that, whilst the state will look after them to a certain degree, I think that you've got to put a little bit of effort in yourself.
And the human spirit has an amazing ability to, with assistance from medication, to keep going. And I think and again, the human spirit is quite strong. We will stay alive long enough to do these, and this, and that, and then after that, we'll go to sleep and not wake up. Fine.
Yeah, and you may be painting a little bit of a depressing view of all this.
Well, are we painting a depressing picture? What do you think?